This is book bans are a slippery slope part 2. So here's the thing. They do start in school libraries, and then they go to local libraries, and then they go to bookstores. Okay. Rarely does it go to that extent. Here's the thing. Project 2025 has specifically stated that they will target creators who talk about these books as well as authors. So those beloved authors that are Black, right, that are queer, that are women. I'm sorry, I just put it the wrong way. That are Indigenous, that are Latinx. Their lives are at risk because of these book bans. It is not so much the individual book or that the individual book is problematic, right? Because you can choose to read or not read a problematic book. We know for a fact that Sarah J. Maas is problematic. We know for a fact that Colleen Hoover, Cassandra Clare, Brandon Sanderson, T.J. Klune, Neil Gaiman, are all problematic, and I can continue going. Tilly Cole, Janine Cummings. Again, I can continue. Are their books getting banned? No. No, they're not. In fact, they are some of the most beloved authors on here. And yet they are some of the most problematic authors. But because, God forbid, a book that was written in 1980s and, that is about Celie, I think that's how you pronounce her name, a poor African American girl living in rural Georgia in the early 1900s, uses a racial slur because that was used then. Again, don't believe in this book, but we're going to talk about it, right? Just because this author is talking about unaliving themselves, or, should it not be spoken about? Should that topic just not be heard? Or pro-life? I could, if you don't like this book, you know what? I have another book. The Giver, similar concept. I am doing this inverted. Sorry, guys. Forgot to put that on. So this has the same vibes as this. Yeah? Are we gonna ban this now? Should queer books be banned because the authors are queer or because they talk about LGBTQ? What about books about the Indigenous people or Latinx people? What about books by Indigenous authors or by Latinx authors? Do you see the problem here? You can pick and choose which ones you want to read. That does not mean they should be banned, right? Now, we can have this discussion that is similar to the abortion, pro-life, and the abortion laws, right? Just because you don't want to have an abortion doesn't mean you should decide for everyone else, right? That is the problem that we are facing. We are losing our bodily autonomy, freedom to choose which books we want to read. And I know a lot of people are like, now, well, you can get your books, your paperbacks for under $10. You know what? I've been doing that for ages. I didn't need Trump in office for me to buy books less than $10. There are plenty of ways for me to do that. There are ways to access the library, right? And I'm talking about America. I'm not talking about other countries. Okay, so keep that in mind. There are plenty of ways. But these book bans go beyond school libraries. They go to local libraries. Then they go to the bookstores. They harm authors. They harm readers who want representation. We have to be so understanding right now that this is such a slippery slope. It is one thing for there to be absolutely misinformation in a nonfiction book, okay? I'm just saying, like, understand that. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about, a fictional book. A fictional book. A book based off Alex Gino's experience as a queer person. Hard topics. Black authors, Indigenous authors, Latinx authors, queer authors, Jewish authors. The Diary of Anne Frank, because she's Jewish and because it tells the truth about what she lived through, has been banned. And Tango Makes Three, a children's book about real penguins in the Central Park Zoo. It is not just, yes, I can understand some things. Again, you can pick and choose which books you want to read. Right? It's that easy. But what if a social worker, just giving an example, wants to read this book to understand how people are feeling, and have been listening to their students who have read this book and felt like they felt similar to this, and that they're concerned? What about the queer community or young queer students who feel the need to have representation, who are living in conservative homes and going through conversion therapy? Or young women who no longer have a choice but to carry a baby to term and then have the baby ripped from them, which is exactly what we've been living in. I talk about adoption, right? Because I'm an adoptee. I'm an adoption educator. Again, problematic author. Does that mean that this book should be banned? No. They want to ban books that don't look like them, that don't have the same representation. They didn't ban Harry Potter, or they're not trying to ban Harry Potter because the author's transphobic. No, they're not banning that for that reason. You know why they're banning it? They're banning it because of magic used. You know why they're banning the Hunger Games? Because of revolution. Do you understand that there is a slippery slope here? This is why it is problematic. And this isn't new. This is not a new concept. This has been around for centuries. Long before World War II, right? I had done a video and I did private it because a fellow author who is on our side, I just want to make that clear, was getting some hate. I misread the situation. I apologize. But maybe you didn't know, but here in America, they started banning books in 1637 with the Puritans. 1637. You know who they targeted for the witch trials, both in Europe and America? Mostly women. You know who weren't allowed to get an education and read? Women. That is why it's a problem. This is why we have to continue speaking out.